I call our special town meeting to order, our second outdoor meeting, perhaps in history, I don't know, but thank you for coming and being a part of a legislative body. You are the legislative body of our town government. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and join us if you wish. Carl Keener. This will lead to rapid evaporation of the puddles at your feet. And our flag is over there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good morning, early risers. I'm Robert Floyd, Town Moderator. I parted the waterways, but I can't do anything about the wind. I'm so sorry. Teamwork. It's a pleasure and honor to serve you as town moderator. Thank you for your continued support. I am in awe and honored to work with the special town meeting planning committee of the various department heads. And we have a flyover as planned. Last time we had a couple hawks in the back. We'll go with the Jets for today. For a full transparency and disclosure, I also serve you by being the Southampton Cemetery Commissioner, as well as clerk, cemetery superintendent of our 3 cemeteries, Southampton Historical Society board member, Easthampton Media board director. There is no compensation for any of these privileges. Publicly thank Carl Keener, going into his 5th year, serving us as our deputy moderator. Our town meeting is a business meeting of Southampton. Our legislative branch session called pursuant to a posted warrant, the official record of what will be discussed, and the only topic on which our special town meeting this morning may actually take action. Turn of the warrant. A warrant for the special town meeting, October 17, 2020, Hampshire, to either of the constables of the town of Southampton and said county, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the precincts of the town of Southampton, County of Hampshire, qualified to vote in elections and town affairs, to meet in the Labrie Field, Strong Road, Southampton, Massachusetts on Saturday, October 17th, 2020 at 10 a.m. Then and there to act on the following articles. This was posted October 1st, signed by Mike Goyette, Constable, signed and sealed. Carl. I have the short version. I left the 20-minute version at home. I'm sure no complaints. I heard that. May we have a moment of silence now in keeping with Southampton culture for those who have moved on ahead since we've last met. Thank you. Our special town meeting has been recorded for rebroadcast on public cable access channel 191 by Ryan Arnold and Jim Ramsey. We remain in a pandemic. The voters' health needs come first. If anyone is feeling sick or exhibiting any of the following symptoms: fever, cough, shortness of breath, chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, or new loss of taste or smell, or have potentially been exposed to someone with confirmed or suspected COVID-19 is encouraged to leave now and go home. The executive branch of our town's government have worked hard to create, weigh in on the articles for our town meeting. Their work is done. And here we go with more jets. Although some members sit up front, by our tradition, they do not have, we got more. That was the backup crew to ensure that we had a flyover. Anybody who sits up front does not have more of a vote or say this morning than any of you in our special town meeting. My role as moderator is to administer rules, guidelines in an even-handed manner, fully, impartially, consistently. My authority is over an open process that you trust. Your responsibility as the legislative branch of our town government for our articles is over outcome. You have power to make laws, the power of the purse, and to exercise your freedom of speech. Anyone may challenge my process with a point of order yelled from your seat. I will invite you to the mic where you describe what pending action is frivolous, illegal, or contrary to proper procedure. Once a motion is read and I have asked and received the second, then I invite a pro and then a con statement. Discussions must be relevant to a motion, merits or lack thereof. Speak your heart and mind, not read what others have written. This ties the moderator's hands to maintain an open, balanced town meeting that is fair to all. It's when after a comment is ruled out of order or scope and the speaker continues to debate the moderator, the speaker is directed to sit down. Ready to contribute something new? Approach the mics, stand in line to be recognized in turn. I recognize speakers only standing at the mic unless it's a point of order. Address the moderator, state your name and address clearly. Please direct your opinions, questions, answers, and address all remarks to your town moderator. Do not speak directly to other voters to prevent lecturing, bullying, intimidation, and cross-examinations. Speak up to 5 minutes per time, no more than twice in any article, except to correct an error, answer a question. Rude behavior, shouting, bullying, lecturing, personal attacks will not be tolerated. Anyone unwilling to comply with these rules will be removed after their third warning. So let this be our first warning. Those seated up front may remain seated and use their table's microphone to answer your questions. Listen courteously. Vote exactly as you think right. Outside speakers, it is Southampton's custom to vet somebody new to address you. I will read their name. Ms. Jen Ramsey, the Executive Director of Easthampton Media. Without objection, this non-voter with an interest or expertise will be permitted to speak in this future town meetings. Hearing no objections, we will proceed. Thank you. Thank you all for your patience and respecting everyone this morning. May I hear a motion for Article 1?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer or appropriate $50,000 from Public, Educational, and Government, also known as PEG Access Capital Fund, to the town's PEG Access designee, Easthampton Media, to fund the replacement, upgrade, and installation of the PEG TV broadcasting, streaming, and recording equipment at the Town Hall first floor meeting room in Norris Elementary School Library. We
have a motion. May I have a second? That was Chris. Motion, oh, Francine, sorry. Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this? Ms. Jen Ramsey? There you are. Step right up to the mic.
Hi, Jen Ramsey, Executive Director, Easthampton Media. We're a 501c3 nonprofit media center. We run your public access services and Channel 191 on TV. We've been contracting with the city for about a decade doing this, and we have outdated equipment at the town hall that needs replacing. The money comes from the contract between Charter and the town. Charter gives a capital grant to the town every 5 years to replace equipment for public access. And so we're just asking to release that money to us so that we can upgrade and better serve the residents with new equipment.
Thank you. Do we have a con who would like to speak against this motion? Any questions, any comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion under Article 1, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. The motion for Article 1 passes unanimously. Mayor, a motion for Article 2, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $140,000 to purchase a new Ford F-150 or equivalent dump truck with plow and sander body for the Highway Department, and to authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, to borrow the sum of $140,000 for said appropriation under applicable sections of Chapter 44, Sections 7 and 8 of the general laws, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes therefore, and in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20, any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes thereafter, less any premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to pay project costs, and the amount authorized to be borrowed for such project shall be reduced by the amount of any such premium so applied that may be necessary for that purpose, provided, however, that the appropriation authorized under shall be contingent on the approval by the voters of the town of a so-called Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion under General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C, and authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, to issue any bonds or notes therefore, and in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20, any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes thereunder, less any premium applied to the payment of the cost of the issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to pay project costs, and the amount authorized to be borrowed for such project shall be reduced by the amount of any such premium so applied that may be necessary for that purpose, as authorized by the general laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, 9, or any other general or special law.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Turn this on. Oh, it is on. Randall Camp Highway Superintendent. Just a correction. It's not a Ford 150, but a 550 or equivalent. I don't know if that matters in the motion.
We'll amend it quickly. Anybody want to second the amendment? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we've amended it.
Thank you. So this is a replacement of a 2002 Chevy 3500 diesel. It's 18 years old and has 133,000 miles on it. It's one of 18 pieces of road equipment we have. The majority of them are also used for snow and ice control.
Thank you. Anybody want to speak against this article? Any comments? Any questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. This requires 2/3. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. I didn't hear a nay. Any nays because of the wind? It's unanimous. It meets our 2/3 requirement. Let's go on to the motion for Article 3, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $5,800 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Edward Library capital budget to fund the replacement and expansion of the security system at the library.
Motion made, do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please?
Barbara Golden, head of the library department head and director. This was in cooperation with Charlie Kinnicky and other people in the town. The security system would help the library and also help watching the Conan Park area. We have had some minor vandalism, and that was one of the reasons to have the security system. And also, the meeting room would have a separate, pad with its own code, so the meeting room could be used more. Before COVID, it was used a lot, and we expect it would be opening, maybe in the spring, hopefully, again to people meeting in there.
Thank you. Anybody would like to speak against this motion under this article? Any questions? Comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. We need a 2/3 majority for approval. All those in favor of the motion under Article 3, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Motion for Article 3 passes unanimously. May I hear, no, nay. Counters? Count the nay. Counters. This is in a pandemic. We got a majority vote, but to be sure in record, I'll have counters count the negative votes. Please step forward. They're going to count from front to back. All those voting nay on this motion, raise your hand. Thank you for the teamwork. It's quite windy and sound doesn't travel all the way up here. Raise your hand high, those.
I have two.
2.
0.
0.
Okay. 2 nays, but we meet our 2/3 majority. May I hear a motion for Article 4, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $7,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Building Department capital budget to fund the purchase and installation of a wide format scanner.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please?
Hi, Mr. Moderator, Matt Rowland, 16 Mountain Road, Select Board and Capital Committee member. This wide format scanner is going to be multi-purpose in our town hall. It's meant to be used to scan historical records, anything that we have dating all the way back to the origination of the town, to try to get an electronic copy of those things. It's also meant to put things like wide blueprints for buildings and houses and things like that are currently stored in paper format and have them stored electronically. So again, used by multiple different towns and departments, but more often probably the building department.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak against this or motion under this article? Any other comments? Questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. We need a 2/3 majority for approval. All those in favor of the motion under Article 4, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. The motion under Article 4 passes unanimously, meeting our 2/3 majority requirement. May I hear a motion for Article 5, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $7,600 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the town IT capital budget to fund the purchase and installation of 6 desktop PCs and software and operating systems.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please?
Ed Gibson, Town Administrator. This would be phase 2 of our
Closer.
phase 2 of our PC replacement for town employees. This would replace 6 desktop PCs with the operating systems and the software. Our current PCs are about 5 to 7 years old, so it's time to keep replacing them.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak against this motion? Yep.
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road, Town Accountant. I guess the question that I have is, we have a CARES Act money we received because of the pandemic from the government. Why don't we use that money to buy laptops and docking stations for the department heads? Instead of using this money, we could use that money for that purpose, and then if we have to work from home for whatever reason, we can have those laptops ready to go right from our desk at work and bring them home, instead of appropriating more capital money to replace these desktops. We should use the money that we already have, and we could use this capital money for something else. Because we already appropriated $8,000 back in May of 2019 that we can use for the desktops that we don't necessarily need to have laptops for, or people who can't work from home.
Thank you. Anybody want to address that? Yep.
If we are able to, we will put in for CARES money for the laptops for the department heads. The last I actually saw, and I'm waiting for an answer on this, is that they were limiting laptops to only those individuals that were emergency response personnel, but I'm waiting for clarification on that. But even if we are able to use CARES money for laptops for the department heads, we would still have to replace the PCs for the individuals that are non-department heads, which this would do.
Thank you. That answer your question? Any other comments?
Tom Livingston, Pomeroy Meadow Road. I guess I just want to, from what Vicki said.
A little closer, Tom.
From what Vicki said is that if you give the laptops to the department heads, why couldn't you use their desktops? You know, move the desktops around to the other folks. So I guess I don't quite understand the.
Okay, we take your question. Somebody want to? Yeah, Ed.
The current desktops are 5 to 7 years old and need replacement no matter what.
Answer your question? Oh, wait, did that answer your question? Okay.
But the town already appropriated $8,000 back in May of 2019 that we could use for the rest of those desktops. Why couldn't we use that for the desktops that we might need?
Okay, we accept your question. Somebody want to answer that?
That would only account for about 6 more desktops, and we do have more desktops that need replacing than 6.
Answer your question? Anybody else? Go right up to the mic.
How many people work in this
Whoa,
department?
whoa, whoa, whoa. Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's my first time. I'm Sierra Simmons from 242 College Highway. I was just wondering how many people work in this department, so we know how many computers we need total.
It's not just one department, it's all the departments together. The highway, all the town hall departments.
They're looking for a number. Roughly. 10. That answer your question? Great. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Any other questions? Go ahead. Don't need permission, just go right up to the mic.
Jim Sini, High Street.
Her name?
Jim Sini, High Street.
Yep.
Is this part of a normal, orderly depreciation of assets turnover? It doesn't feel to me like it's a usual coordinated, because PCs die and they age and they need to be. Is this part of a normal turnover, or is this something? I'm just hearing a lot of differing opinions, and it doesn't feel, for lack of a better word, orderly to me.
Okay, we take your question. Who would like to answer that? Ed?
Yes, this would be part of the normal recycling of the PCs. Like I say, they've gotten to be 5 to 7 years old.
Did that answer your question? Great.
Hello. Ooh, sorry. Hi, Elizabeth McNichol, 29 Gilbert Road. I just wanted to clarify if I'm understanding correctly. The town accountant made a point that I believe there's $8,000 already appropriated for these computers that could already be used for it. And if I'm reading the proposal, they're asking for $7,000. So wouldn't that $8,000 actually cover it?
Okay, we have your question. Who would like to answer that? Yep. Yeah, it's not on my, or I can't hear you.
Yep,
There you go.
Matt Rowland, Capital Committee. It is my understanding, I've been on the Capital Committee now for a couple of years. Yes, we do have money appropriated for computers at Town Hall from a previous allocation at a town meeting, but we're talking about different computers here. We're on a cycle with these computers. We don't replace all of our town's computers all at once every 5 years. It's similar to the school. We have hundreds of computers in town. They're on a cycle, and we don't replace them all at the 5-year mark. They're, you do a few a year, if that makes sense.
To answer your question?
So you're saying that even though we have the 8,000, you do need more because there'll be more on a rolling basis that need replacement?
Yes, that's the Capital Committee's understanding.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? John?
Yeah, John Martin,
Are
106.
you going to speak or ask a question? Answer a question. If you're going to speak, I need you at that mic.
I'm going to answer a question.
Yes, sir.
John Martin, 106 Clark Street, on the Select Board. And one of the things we have to look at is when we do the budget process, even though we say we need something in that particular year, there's often not funds available, so it pushes off to another year. So we push these off year to year, and now we're trying to catch up. One of the speakers said, is this an orderly? It's an unorderly process because we don't often get the funding. So we're trying to catch up some years over others.
Matt Rowland, 16 Mountain Road. And to John's point, we actually did this last year for Capital Committee. We were trying to get more computers, but we didn't have the funds available, so we only did half of them then. We're doing the other half now, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
I guess my problem is we appropriated the money in May of 2019. It is now,
Lower your voice.
it is now, I won't get so close to the microphone. It is now October of 20. I guess you should have already spent the money we had on new computers. It doesn't seem like that is a rolling, if you're going to replace a few each year, we still have that money that we haven't spent yet.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. We need a 2/3 majority. All those in favor of the motion under Article 5, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Counters, raise your cards. All those in favor? We only give out one color. Yellow? They're yellow today? Good. They're yellow. Raise your yellow cards high. The counters will count from front to back. If they don't agree on the count, they'll recount, so keep your hands up until somebody tells you to put them down. with or without the staff?
Robert, they're asking, are they voting yea or nay?
They're voting yay. All those in favor? We're going to count both because there's more than a few, so we're going to count both. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by holding your card high.
Ready? 21.
21. Thank you.
Twenty-four.
24. Okay, put your hands down. All those opposed to the motion on this article, please raise your cards. Keep them up.
Twenty-four.
24.
24.
24. We have 45 ayes, 48 nays. The motion under Article 5 fails. May I hear a motion for Article 6, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $3,500 to the election registration wage account. Said sum shall be taken from these accounts: $2,000 from PEG programming account line, $500 from certification stipend account line, $500 from Board of Select BOS minutes account line, and $500 from the building department gas and plumbing expense account line.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Chris seconded. Hold on to your seats. Who would like to speak on this, please?
Robert, I got it.
Vicki?
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road, Town Accountant. There was a calculation error in the budget that didn't bring forward some dollars for the election registration wages. And in previous years, we used to pay them out of the vendor account. But due to IRS regulations, we have to pay them out of a wage account and through payroll. So this is just putting that money back into that wage line to pay for the election workers for this election season, which is, as we know, pretty important and pretty big.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak against this motion? Any comments, any questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. We need a majority. All those in favor of the motion under Article 6, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Do I hear a nay? Okay. The motion under Article 6 passes by majority. Do I hear a motion for Article 7, please?
Crazy.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $115,000 from community preservation funds to the Park Commission for the construction of 2 new pickleball courts in Conant Park. Said funds to be transferred from community preservation surcharges undesignated account.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this, please?
Virginia A. Hart, 27 Fulmer Road, Chair of the Community Preservation.
A little closer, Virginia. A little closer.
Okay. Chairperson of Community Preservation Committee. I'd like to defer this or refer this to either someone from the Park Commission or from the group that is really behind the pickleball court. They can give you a lot more than I can on this. Okay?
Who would like to speak on this? Mark Reed?
Thank you. My name is Mark Reed, Chairman of the Park Commission,
Address to.
as well as resident of 166 Brickyard Road. A group of people came before the Park Commission with this proposal.
A little closer, Mark.
With this proposal for a pickleball. A lot of people probably don't know what pickleball is, and Janet Kane is going to describe it a little bit further. We had lots of discussions about it. There are new pickleball courts surrounding. I was first introduced to pickleball about a year ago when I was up in New York State with my family camping. And I said, boy, this looks like tennis, but it's not quite the same. We decided to play it, and it was fun. We had a great time. So what pickleball court we decided through lots of different meetings, we engaged through the Park Commission, Bob Cannon, I'm sorry, not Bob, Bill Cannon, a landscape architect in Easthampton. He has worked on the Easthampton pickleball courts, which are brand new. He worked with us to develop a plan. We had lots of different meetings with the group of people that were putting this before us to come up with an area at Conant Park. We looked at possibly putting it here at Labrie Field, but felt that Labrie Field, with the current proposed expansions here, it would be best placed at Conant Park. The size of the two pickleball courts are going to take up an area of 68 by 68 feet. It's about 110 feet from the pavilion, and it will be constructed next to the existing basketball court. The existing tennis courts are going to remain as tennis courts. Right now, they're doing double duty as far as pickleball and used by tennis. The basketball courts will not change at all. So I'll let Janet speak next.
Okay, well, actually, next we invite a pro, which you are. I invite a con by tradition. Is there anybody who would like to speak against this right now? You have your opportunity then. Who would like to turn this over to Ms. Kane? There you are. A little sloshy there.
Yeah, it is a little sloshy, but my name is Janet Kane. I live at 83 Glendale Road, and I'm the chair of the Southampton Council on Aging.
It's a little closer.
Chair of the Southampton Council on Aging. We're the group of people that brought this to the Parks Commission. I just wanted to give you a little bit of history. Back in 2018, we got a grant. The Council on Aging got a grant for $5,500, and after a lot of discussions, we wanted to expand our programs, and we decided to bring pickleball to the seniors. So we got permission from Mark and the Park Commission to put lines on one of the tennis court. So we lined one very hot July morning. We placed lines on the tennis court. We bought a couple of nets, and we got some wooden paddles, really inexpensive, to just see how interested the seniors would be in playing. We wanted to test it out. We quickly had over 30 seniors excited about learning this fun, fast-growing game. But because the nets are portable and not weatherproof, assembly and storage has been required each time we play, limiting access to others in town. In November of that year, as the weather grew cold, we met with the principal at North School regarding playing indoors for the winter. They were able to give us 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon in the cafetorium. The courts were a little bit short, but we made good do. And at that time, we learned that Jim Hallett, the phys ed teacher there, had just purchased over 30 pickleball paddles thanks to Norris PTO and had been teaching pickleball to his classes for a few years. We offered to let him use our nets, of course. I mean, pickleball is truly a sport for all ages. It's easy to learn, but can quickly develop into a fast-paced, competitive sport, and it's a great exercise for everyone. The 55-plus pickleball enthusiasts, along with Jim, asked to be put on the agenda at the Parks Commission, as Mark mentioned. Would they support our efforts to expand the pickleball program and make it available for the entire town? How many courts should we build? Where should they be located? And since Conant Park had racket sports and is more family-oriented, it was most suited for pickleball. In late 2019, Parks agreed to submit a request to community preservation. And in early 2020, before COVID-19 reared its ugly head, the Council on Aging, Jim Hallett, and Mark Reed of the Park Commission met with community preservation. I can vouch for the fact that requesting funds from CPC is not a carte blanche sign-off. There was a great deal of discussion, starting with what is pickleball? How can the courts be placed so they don't interfere with a summer concert series? How far away from the pavilion could they be located? And after a lot of discussion, community preservation voted to approve the funds for the 2 pickleball courts. After all, pickleball can be played by people of all ages, and it requires little to no maintenance. Today, I'm asking you to vote and approve the request initiated by the Council on Aging for $115,000 for 2 pickleball courts for use for all the residents in Southampton. Senior citizens make up 1/3 of the population in town. We've paid taxes for decades. We support the schools, the youth programs in town, and we love our open space. We, as senior citizens and taxpayers, don't feel like we should have to go to another city or town to play pickleball. Let's make pickleball available for everyone in Southampton, whether you're 8 or 80. Pickleball is one of the sports listed as low risk in Massachusetts' Phase 3 reopening plan for youth and adult amateur sports. If you've never heard of it, don't be surprised if once you try it, you love it. Thank you again for your support today.
Thank you. Anybody who'd like to speak in opposition? She's first. Go ahead.
Tammy Williams, 298 College Highway. I am not opposed to this, but I do have a question. Mr. Moderator, lots of money from CPC was dedicated to this field alone, and I'm wondering when those projects are going to be done, and does this affect money dedicated to here?
That's out of the scope of this motion under this article. Yes?
Tim Dalton, 29 Gilbert Road. I'm not against this, but the question I have is, I think I heard that this money is being transferred from the Parks Department to this pickleball. It's already money that we have. Is that the case?
I have the answer, but I'd like somebody else to answer it.
Okay.
Yeah, Vicki? Virginia?
No, it's not being transferred from the parks. It is money we already have. Community preservation is a separate entity, and it's funded it's funded by a very small surcharge on your property tax. It is money we have and which the state also gives a matching grant. And even in the worst of times, Southampton has fared very well with getting these state grants. About 2/5 of this money has really come from the state, and it's here and we can use it, but we can't use it for a lot of things.
Thank you. Answer your question?
very simply, do we already have this money or do we not?
She answered, she actually stated we already have the
That's what I
money.
thought she said. So
Yep.
we already have the money. We're
Yes,
not-
sir.
Okay, thank you.
Next. Thank you, Virginia.
Mike Beeler, 88 High Street. How much is in each of the community preservation accounts at present?
Okay, fair question.
I haven't received a real recent. It's ongoing. Money comes in all the time as you pay taxes. And maybe Vicki can give you a better count. I just recently asked for an update, but
Okay. Vicki, do
she
you have
doesn't
the...
have time to give it.
Thank you. Vicki, do you have the numbers? No, you gotta hit the button. No.
Hello? Oh, there we go, sorry.
That works.
So currently in the undesignated, there is $674,282.40. In open space, there's $111.96, $111,966, but we do have our loan payment for the Pomeroy Meadow Road, which needs to come out of that this year. And then in historical, with the projects that we already appropriated at the annual town meeting, there's about $72,667,000. But that does not include the money that we receive from the state because we haven't gotten that money yet. So that will go into the undesignated account.
Thank you. Answer your question? Great. Next person on the mic. Yes, sir.
Bob Koza, 181 College Highway, the Historical Commission representative to CPC. Early on, when this was raised before CPC, the question was asked regarding location of this pickleball court. And one of the questions was, could it be located in the property that was purchased for the building of a new safety complex, which has been turned down. The property was anyway, has been turned down for a safety complex, and that is the property up behind the existing fire department. I don't believe that question was ever answered, and I'd like to know whether that property has been considered for location.
Somebody want to answer that?
Mark Reed, again, we looked at different locations. We did not particularly look at that because I felt that that location, because of the steep slope, would not be good for a level field. Basically, pickleball is like a tennis court. It has to be built on a level spot. A level spot. So we felt that that was too steep of topography to make it pickleballs work there without a lot more money to regrade and construct it.
Thank you. That answer your question? Great. Next person. Oh, you got somebody behind you. I'm sorry, you're at the mic. I didn't see you. My bad.
This is Doug Hamill, 7 Sophie Circle. In regards to finance, I believe I would direct this question to the park commissioner. It sounds as though we only obtained one quote for installing these 2 pickleball courts. Given the large sum of money, $115,000, was there a competitive bid process, or are we only fielding one quote to, basically ballpark this project?
Okay, we have your question. Need an answer?
This is the first, Mark Reed again, this is the first phase of going out to get competitive bids. We got bids from surrounding towns that installed pickleballs. We had probably 6 or 8 different cost estimates from surrounding towns that we used to come up for this request for the $115,000.
Okay, thank you. And answer your question? Great. Lucy?
Lucy Dalton, 10 Strong Road. Mr. Moderator, I'm asking if, one, is there an opportunity to put the pickleball court where one of the tennis courts is? And also, if this does pass, will there be reservations being made if people are having events at Conant Pavilion where people won't be playing pickleball while the events are happening? How is that reservation process going to be happening?
Okay, two-part question. Mark, where'd you go? There you go. Feel the heat.
Mark Reed again. As far as reservations, I believe that anyone can play tennis, basketball, or in the future pickleball at any time. Typically, the pavilion is rented out with a schedule. Pickleball is a small group of people, so I don't think it's going to be a major issue with both going on at the same time. We did look at lots of different options, as I mentioned before, to try to come up with the best location that would not impact the pavilion use, the tennis courts, and the basketball courts. Currently, there's 2 tennis courts that are out there. Now they're using temporarily 1 tennis court. Those tennis courts were a memorial to Doug Mattson, who was a longtime resident and select board. We felt that those were donated to the town as tennis courts in his memory, and felt that that was not appropriate to take away those tennis court to change the use.
Thank you. That answer your question?
Yes, I just feel that if people are having, you know, maybe a wedding or something, or some kind of a reception there, and I mean, how close to the pavilion are the courts going to be? Because I know if I'm having a big party at the
It's
pavilion.
110 feet or something I heard. Good, 110 feet, that's your answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this? You've already had a chance, he hasn't.
Ted Palmer, 71 Glendale Road. As a player and senior, I'd just like to speak in support of this measure. My grandchildren, different ages, have been oriented to this sport at school, and I'm able to go and play with them, and it's a terrific thing for my family, a multiple generation. So I think it would be a wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Bueller, 88 High. From a previous response by Mr. Reed, it's no longer clear to me whether
We don't use names.
My apologies.
Previous
From a
speaker.
previous response.
Yes.
It's no longer clear to me whether the $115,000 being requested in this article is based on a bid we have in hand, or simply estimates we have based on benchmarking with other towns.
Okay, thank you.
Second, is this $150,000 fully loaded, or is it possible this cost could go higher? And finally, would there be some additional maintenance costs or burden imposed on the town ongoing?
All right, we have a two-part question again. Not again, but please come up. Mark? Virginia? Okay.
While this was the figure from them that they felt would cover the work, then that amount will be, but some of the pickleball courts were less. If this money is granted and some of it isn't used, it comes right back into our undesignated account. It's not out there for other people to use. That's all. I have no idea about any upkeep any more than the tennis courts have.
Okay, the person behind you may. Thank you very much. Virginia?
Mark Reed. In order to go out to get a final bid to construct the field, we need to come up with design plans and go out for competitive bids. which is a process that we have to follow state law for. Without having this money to do that, we cannot get a price to tell the final cost of it. We feel this was a good figure, and we're going to live within the figure. Hopefully it comes in less so that we can return some money to the town. But without full design plans, which is included as part of this application, we cannot get a definite price.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to mention to respond to another question was the expansion of Labrie Field and those costs.
Actually, we're not going there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
That answer your question? No, you can say yes or no. You've had 2 times at the mic. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Good morning, Jim Hallett, 65 Strong Road. I'm also the phys ed teacher at Norris School. I'd like to also speak on behalf of the pickleball courts. I've been a tennis player and a racket sports enthusiast for 50 years. I know the tennis courts are still used. I also go over there and play pickleball with my colleagues from the Norris School. We've been playing after school at Norris School every Wednesday afternoon for the last couple of school years. And we just started playing when it was open to phase 3, and we get over there once a week for about 2 hours, and it is a wonderful, wonderful activity because you don't need, like a soccer field, 22 friends. And keeping them by the other tennis courts, I think, is a great idea, so that you have the option to play either or. I know that one of the days I was playing over there, on the court that was painted on a tennis court, there were several tennis players that wanted to get on. So graciously, we played for our next 15 minutes or so that the next group could get on. My kids in grades 4 through 6, they have thoroughly enjoyed it. Once again, they can get out there with moms and dads, grandpas, grandmas, whoever they need to get out there with. So I am strongly in favor of this. I'd like to see the kids have an opportunity outside of school to do an activity that doesn't need 20 of their friends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road. My question is about equipment. Will the people who play on that court have to bring their own paddles and balls like they do at the tennis court, or is it going to be something that is going to be purchased with the courts and allowed to be used by residents of the town?
I know the answer, but I would rather have CPA or Parks answer that question. Thank you.
Mark Reed. So it's anticipated that people would have their own rackets and balls, especially in COVID times. I know the Council of Aging has their rackets and balls that they have on staff or on with their sites.
Thank you. Answer your question? Great.
Just to go off that,
introduce yourself.
Jim Hallett, 65 Strong Row, phys ed teacher. Just like tennis, any other racket sport, and my colleagues at work, we bring our own equipment. I wouldn't expect the town to purchase that for me.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we're going to vote. Simple majority. All those in favor of the motion on Article 7, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. This passes by majority, the motion for Article 7. Mayor, a motion for Article 8, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to insert a new Article 30 entitled Wetlands Protection Bylaw as set forth in Article 8 of the warrant for the October 17, 2020 special town meeting into the town's general bylaws and renumber the subsequent sections of the general bylaws accordingly.
The motion was tweaked and improved. May I hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak in favor of this, please?
Mr. Moderator, Daniel Lavalley, 17 Glendale Road, member of the Conservation Commission.
A little closer.
I will speak in support of Article 8, Wetland Protection Bylaw. Following my part, my Conservation Commission colleague will provide more detail. This proposed bylaw refines the Southampton-specific sections of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, specifically Section 2, Section 4.3, Section 4.3.3, and Section 12. Please refer to...
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. My bad. I didn't write my note down, but I thought about wanting to share this. This is the same article that appeared motion 3 years ago. The moderator at a time received a motion to table this article, the motion. The moderator used an ineffective solution and called to table successful. It was not. I was that moderator. I made that error. Please proceed.
Okay. Please refer to the single-page handout distributed when you signed into today's meeting. This bylaw and the handout have been posted on the town website for several days. This bylaw ensures consistent application of the state's Wetland Protection Act, guiding landowners and future Southampton Conservation Commissioners by specifying the activities which are allowed within the 100-foot buffer zone around wetlands. It also clearly defines the 25-foot conservation zone within the buffer zone, where work will require commission permission. Exceptions are made for minor activities such as mowing or gardening that are currently occurring at the time of the adoption of this bylaw. It is a common practice for Massachusetts municipalities to adopt conservation zones bylaws, averaging zones of 25 feet, as is proposed in this bylaw that you are voting on today. This bylaw also creates consistency by defining a conservation zone and buffer zone around vernal pools. Effective implementation of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act is increased by this bylaw. When a wetland is disturbed, various solutions are possible. Most circumstances are resolved through discussion with the Conservation Commission. As a final resolution, if no resolution is made towards an agreed upon solution, a fine may be imposed. Your Conservation Commissioner has proposed this. Conservation Commission has proposed this wetlands protection bylaw to better protect the water supply, provide better flood control, better erosion control, better storm damage prevention, better prevention of water pollution, and protection for wildlife habitat. Please support the health and well-being of current and future residents of Southampton and vote in favor of Article 8. Thank you. And now my fellow Conservation Commission member will speak.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, Anna Breen, 1 Birchwood Drive. I'm a member of the Southampton Conservation Commission, and I'm here to speak in favor of Article 8, Wetlands Protection Bylaw. As a Southampton resident, I truly cherish the abundance of our rural and gorgeous nature that surrounds us. We are very fortunate to have so many fields, trails, conservation lands, and immaculate landscapes and views at our fingertips. All of the protections were found to be either important or very important by 85% of the respondents of the recent Open Space Recreation Plan community survey. The buffer zone is incredibly paramount to protecting the wetlands by keeping the surface waters clean, helping to restore groundwater supply, which will help prevent droughts and then inevitable flooding following, and also help with erosion control, just to name a few benefits. This bylaw creates conservation zone, meaning the first 25 feet surrounding a wetland. It would be a no-work zone, minus light gardening and mowing, within the already established Wetlands Protection Act buffer zone. Massachusetts has statewide bylaws to protecting the wetlands. However, they are very general. And with the numerous ecosystems in just this state alone, it is important to customize the Wetland Protection Act for specific needs of Southampton. 2/3 of town in Massachusetts, many of which are surrounding towns, also have their own unique versions of a conservation zone. One major concern is the protection of vernal pools in this town. As stated in the handout, vernal pools are temporary pools that are formed from melted snow and rainwater. While they are easy to overlook by most people, vernal pools play a gigantic role in our ecosystem. Vernal pools are where frogs, salamanders, and other small amphibians breed. When we protect their breeding grounds, we help these threatened animals survive to control the virus-spreading mosquito and tick population. These animals are also food for smaller carnivores such as birds of prey, ducks, otter, and fox. Vernal pools are also important to bear, chipmunks, and some turtles who hibernate for months and need water available close by for when they come out in the spring. Along with helping out animals, vernal pools also help with flooding by pooling the rainwater, keeping it from eroding certain roads, paths, and even some lawns. Unfortunately, vernal pools are dwindling as towns develop more and more. Many vernal pools have no protection at all and will be built over, taking food, water, and flood protection away. By adopting this bylaw, we are helping to protect our specific landscapes and waters in Southampton. The State Wetland Protection Act already protects land within 100 feet of any wetland and 200 feet of any perennial and stream. Though work in the 100-foot buffer zone is discouraged, anyone can apply for a permit with the Conservation Commission to have work done. The same goes for the 25-foot conservation zone proposed by this bylaw. The Conservation Commission holds open meetings twice monthly and will work with landowners to offer solutions to specific circumstances. This bylaw is not retroactive, meaning work that has already been done can remain. It will help preserve the landscapes, the health of our community water sources, and protect the fragile ecosystem on which we all depend. Please vote yes for Article 8, Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Who would like to speak against this?
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. Mr. Moderator, is this a bylaw that we should be voting on at a special town meeting when we do not have a majority of this town to give their vote at? Or is this something that we are voting on to go on to the next election so that the whole town has the opportunity of discussing this?
I have the answer to that, but I'd like somebody to address that instead. But as far as historic special annual, there's never been a problem historically whether we deal with a bylaw at a special or an annual. And there's no election requirement for an election.
Thank you.
Answer your question? Thank you. Anybody else? Step right up to the mic.
Mr. Moderator, Cindy Palmer, 71 Glendale Road. I am not speaking in opposition. I am speaking in support of passing this wetlands bylaw, and I also have a question. I support this bylaw because it protects our critical natural resources, especially our water supply, our fragile ecosystems, and our current and future natural people who reside in this town. It also provides clarity, not only for landowners, but for the Conservation Commission in applying the wetlands bylaw, the wetlands law. My question is, how does the Conservation Commission handle a report of a potential violation? What do they do if somebody reports a violation, and do landowners have rights for people coming onto their land?
Thank you.
Good question. And this process for handling violations does not change by this bylaw. This is the same practice that has been used since the Wetlands Protection Act was established. First, I want to make it clear that the Conservation Commission does not trespass. The process is we will start by looking up the parcel on the Mass Wetlands website to see if there's any wetlands on the property. We contact the wetland owner directly to let them know we have a report of a violation, and we ask the landowner for permission to go onto their property. We ask to walk the property with them or their representative to see if there is in fact a violation. If the property owner says no or is not allowing the Conservation Commission to go on the property, we contact the Massachusetts DEP for further direction.
Thank you. That answer your question? Great. Yes.
Jim Sini, High Street. 2 questions of clarification.
Closer.
2 questions permitted, sir?
Yep.
All right. First question. what is the default? Is it the Massachusetts Protection Act? Is that the 100-foot buffer zone? That's question one. Question two, what are the elements of the current Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act that this seems to bring additional need to? I'm trying to understand why we're looking at a conservation zone. Is the 100-foot buffer zone, if that's the default Wetlands Protection Act for Massachusetts, insufficient? I don't understand.
Question and answer, please. Thank you.
Daniel LaValle. So really your question is, well, just to make sure I
To the mic, to the mic.
Sorry, just to make sure I understand it, is, you know, the 100-foot buffer zones covered by the Wetlands Protection Act, why are we going to say we need this 25-foot buffer zone? It's really to create the consistency in the application, specifically for Southampton, of the interpretation of the Wetlands Protection Act. Because what can occur in the 100-foot buffer zone, the state allows the municipalities to have some leeway. So this makes it clearer for everybody involved, the town members as well as the Concom, as to the definition of what work is done there.
Thank you. Answer your question? Great, thank you. Next.
Moderator, Andrew Cowell, 155 Pomeroy Meadow Road. I'm actually talking today about the property that I own on 9 Miller Avenue, which is wetlands. I leave it unposted, undeveloped. The beavers decided to develop it. That's not my fault. I blame them. Having said that, you know, it's very nice to talk about other people's land and what to do, not to do, and not have the opportunity to pay for it. I pay for the privilege to have that land the way it is. I just don't think we need this level of bureaucracy. I think we should allow the people who tend to the land by leaving it alone continue to do our good work, because we own the land, and that's our right to do that. And I think the state's guidelines stand for themselves. Ask the beavers. Thank you.
Question and answer, please.
Whether or not the town has the bylaw or the wetland in your on any property in town is protected. So it does
Protected by
the
Commonwealth.
Wetlands Protection Act. So it doesn't take away from that, I guess is my response.
Okay, answer your question? Yes.
Good morning, Jane Rothschild, 13 Cold Spring Road, and
A little closer.
I'm here to urge people to vote in favor of this. I am an expert in the Wetlands Protection Act. My job involves adjudicating cases and applying and reviewing permitting. What a local bylaw provides the town with is a greater ability to protect environmental values and interests that are not covered by the state act. So while the state act provides a floor, the local bylaw gives towns greater ability to protect the resources, and adding a conservation zone under a local bylaw is a great idea. And I think that it gives this town, which has been developing so rapidly, a better opportunity to protect environmental values through implementation of both the State Wetlands Act and a local bylaw.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Mr. Moderator, this is Doug Hamill, 7 Sophie Circle. My question for the Conservation Commission is in response to the expansion of the WPA to vernal pools. The state, I believe, has a certification process to designate vernal pools as important, certified, specific pools. So what is the purpose of expanding to a much more general protection versus sticking with the existing process of certifying ones that can be proved to be, important to the resources in the area?
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing up that question. It gives me the opportunity to talk about vernal pools. They're very important. So what do I want to say about vernal pools? So there are, when a vernal pool is connected to a wetland, it is protected on the Wetlands Protection Act. when a vernal pool is considered an isolated vernal pool, meaning that it is not connected to a wetland, then there is not coverage under the Wetland Protection Act, as far as I know. So we want to try to apply general protection for all vernal pools in town. So the question was, well, how many extra vernal pools that are not wouldn't be protected now because they're connected to a wetland would that include? So I did a little research on the Massachusetts GIS Oliver website, and there are less than 20 potential vernal pools in Southampton that are not part of the bigger wetland system. So isolated vernal pools. Some of those are on public land, some of those are on private land. The Conservation Commission themselves would not certify the vernal pool on a private land. That's not our job.
Thank you. Answer your question? Great. Much appreciated. Thank you. Yes?
Robert, comment, Ed Gibson, Town Administrator, and would just like to speak in support of this bylaw. And currently, the Conservation Commission follows the state's Rivers Protection Act and the wetlands rules. Most people comply with that. They submit to the Conservation Commission. If someone complains that someone is doing something that doesn't comply or whatever, the Conservation Commission may go out, notify that individual. Most people actually comply at that point. Every once in a while, there are a few that do not, and currently, just working under the state rules and regulations, all the Conservation Commission can really do.
A little closer.
All the Conservation Commission can currently do is send that person that has been notified and doesn't comply another notice and another notice, and the person may just ignore them. The only follow-up they currently have is, if the person keeps ignoring that, is actually getting legal involved and going through a court process, which can be very costly to the town. And as Southampton develops more and more, that non-compliance may actually affect the current homeowner's property if that neighbor isn't complying, and they may be getting runoff and items that on their property that they shouldn't get. So while you see communities adopt their own bylaw, is that to have some intermediate, shall we say, stick for someone that just wants to ignore the Conservation Commission because they know they have no other avenue to follow up with them other than to go to court. The state allows communities to adopt their own bylaws of wetlands protection to address the needs in that particular community. By adopting a wetlands community bylaw locally, it allows the Conservation Commission, if someone keeps ignoring those non-compliance letters, it actually allows them to have another tool, and they would be able to find that individual that is not complying and maybe affecting your property with runoff and whatever. And usually at that point in time, the fines aren't all that large, but it's enough to get the individual attention and follow up rather than delay, and then have an expensive court case for the town to follow up and get them to comply.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 8, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. The motion under Article 8 passes by majority. Our business is done this morning. I need everybody to stay seated. I'll take a motion for this to be dissolved. Second, all in favor? Opposed? This special town meeting is hereby dissolved. I would like orderly exit. Those with the dog and the baby carriage on the end, you can leave, and then each subsequent row will leave. I wish I was like Moses and would lead everybody out. Take